into Quali. 19 here tonight, and 2 brand new drivers. Got 1 brand new gamer tag. You'll notice Top Gun is THR Top Gun now. Really known as Hungary Throne in our league. But the 2 debutants at the top, got Alfeed and we have Everyday GMR. I believe both the debutants have just lagged out. Actually, it's not Alfeed, it's Alfie Edwards. TD letting us know in chat it is going to be all dry for quali and the race. No rain expected here this evening. Mr. Wiggles has retired from the session and his car is not out on track. So that is a decision that Mr. Wiggles has made to retire, and in doing so will start at the back. Padge on an outlap will come round to start a flying lap. 3 currently on the board. Carito 17-0. In fact, Padge was on a lap. It said he was on an outlap earlier. Alfie will go again after that invalidation. In fact, he won't go again. That was a push lap, which got invalidated and did not have the capability to go again. On then with Longson. .27.6 through the first sector. Try and keep an eye on these delta times through sectors 1 and 2. I know I'm notoriously bad at that. My attention span is not what it used to be when I was a kid. But you need to have a good attention span at this track. We'll talk a little bit more about some factors coming into the race in the 5-minute break. That's also when we're going to talk about featured driver. I'll let you know who featured driver is very shortly. Longson comes across the line to do a 17.7, currently 4th place, but as you know, a long way to go. Yeah, anyone in chat, if you are racing and you have any idea what happened to Wiggles, I assume it's just I want to start near the back. And just retire from the session. Now sit back for a bit, lol. Evening, Padge. I hope you are, mate. Nice lap. Currently top of the timing screens, but for how much longer? Killian up there with an outside shot at the championship. Goes 6.5 tenths quicker than anyone else so far tonight. If I'm just helping Williams out in F1 Manager to their prime, mate. Back to the glory days. How we'd love to see Williams and McLaren back at the top. Then in the Ferrari, copying his teammate's strategy of using the medium compound in Q1. Top Gun currently on a 17.7. We'll have to wait and see how IIRL gets on with the same set of tyres. Who brought him in? Well, I'm sure Padge enjoyed being top of the timing screens for about a minute or two. 10 minutes left and only 7 times on the screen. So everyone will need to get out of the pits. There's at least 6 drivers in the pits who haven't set a lap time yet. So at some point they will have to come out and get a lap time on the board. Chicane looked pretty good from Aya there, using as much of the curb without going over those inside sausage curbs, which really ruin your car. Make you lose a bucket load of time, but a little bit wide as he finishes off the middle sector. It's a 55.8 for this attempt. Swings it out wide. If you go too far wide at that penultimate corner, it will get you invalidated, so just a little annoyance to get rid of. And Aya, as it stands, just over 0.5 slower than his teammate. What Felix, how's he's getting on? 57.1 in the middle. And he is not pushing on this occasion. 100% battery still. His teammate Greg, see how Greg gets on then. Felix pops a banker lap in there, but we all know he's going on another run. So I assume that'll be beaten in a minute or so time. And across the line comes Asthma Frog to do a 17.1. Puts himself currently 4th. And here comes Greg now to the line. 17.1 again. Pretty consistent. And a spin for who I could possibly think is TD. Indeed. And getting out of Frog's way. However, Frog has just set a lap time. Smiley out there on the mediums too. So terrible in the middle sector in practice, says Carito. Don't worry, mate. I know your name. I know who you are. Two cars in the way of Smiley here. You can see it's quite congested through the middle sector. Thankfully, those two get out of the way. Smaller. Takes the corners as good as he can, considering those possible distractions ahead of him on track. Felix does improve on his lap time. Gets it down to a 16.9, puts himself 3rd fastest, and Fury in the last few moments has gone 2nd fastest. Smaller Smiley on the medium compound has done the quickest time we've seen so far on the yellow mark tyres, but still only good enough for 10th at the moment. Check in with Exotic then, he's on the mediums as well. He's coming round to start a new lap. Alfie back on track as well after that first flying lap. Didn't work for him. Went back into the pits, so chance to see Alfie's pace in a few moments' time in the AlphaTauri. Currently coming through turn number 3. Pretty tidy from Exotic. Not extravagant, as we have a spinning Alpine of, I assume, TD. Killian in the pits. Now, this isn't probably going to be fastest from Exotic, but just looking to get through to Q2 on those medium compounds. It's a 16.8. That is extremely quick for the mediums. 0.8 quicker than everyone else as things stand. Alfie has unfortunately validated this lap time and will come back into the pit. Still enough time for another run. Slide there from Josh through the middle sector. 54.9 through the middle, and Purple for Sector 2. Takes a wide entry to the final corner, but keeps it nice and tight, swings it round the final corner and sets a 17-0. So pretty good. We'll probably get him through. We're back in now. Let me know how it is now. Deflated Wee has gone fastest. And everyone in the top 9, aside from Josh and Wee, have called it quits for the session already. TD across the line, it's a 16.9. And it's P7, and that should get him through. Nice lap under a little bit of pressure there from TD. And Alfie really struggling with these invalidations. That's 2 on the trot. And his first run didn't count either. Hard to tell exactly where Alfie slots in right now, with no valid lap time and his debut here this evening. Everyday currently up there in P14 on his debut as well. Not too bad. Smaller in Top Gun. Well, on the medium tyres that lap time was, and Top Gun is not going to make it out of the pits to get another lap time, so Top Gun is out of the session. You think pole will be a 15.3? We'll have to wait and see about that. And Alfie keeping it clean this time around, that's what we love to see. However, running out of ERS storage, as you can see on the telemetry, only 8% left. Nice and tidy around the last couple of corners. Checker flag falls, and everyone in, I reckon, the top 11 or 12 is definitely safe. Alfie does an 18.9, unfortunately will be out of quali, which means Smaller Smiley, although he is pushing to improve, it will not matter if he doesn't, as into the pits comes TD, 7th place. Pretty good there for Tom. And Smaller Smiley does a 16.5, showing really good pace in the second half of the season so far. Longson not improving on that attempt, and Everyday does improve to 11th fastest. Pretty good. And Zidane is down through the middle sector, but obviously will not matter if he does not improve. So chat, I want to know, what do you think of this track? How would you rate it out of 10? 10 being this is the best track in the world ever. 1 being I hope the tarmac on this track is dug up and used for more roads where I live. Deflated, currently topping the timing screens. Killian not too far away, less than a 10th. Smaller Smiley Fury Exotic make up the top 5, but this is just Q1. The Exotic you can see, and Josh getting through on those medium tyres. Top Gun possibly would have made it through if he set a lap time on the soft hill, so that's 17th. Longson, 16th place. Alfie will be in 18th for the race, and Mr. Wiggles not setting any lap times, makes it 2 AlphaTauris at the back of the grid. No idea what he's done so far. Could be the best lap, could be the worst lap, could be somewhere in between. Could be a 117 here. It's a 16.9, pretty good. And here comes T to the D. Across the finishing straight, does a 17.3, nice little rhyme. As Fury goes fastest. Once again, being a bit of a surprise racer. Last week at Singapore, he was on fire. and looked almost assured for a podium until a poorly timed safety car kind of ruined his race a little bit. As Padge goes quickest on a 16.8. That is a nice little lap time. We know there's a handful of drivers that can go quicker than that, as they did in Q1. But for now, Padge enjoying his moment in the spotlight once again. As Killian, once again, is the one to break Padge's stardom. 16.0. Zidane then starting a new lap, and will ride on board. No one else on a time lap as things stand. Maybe Felix will be looking to improve on that 22.1. What do you think about the Imola quali format? Q1 hards, Q2 mediums, Q3 softs. I'd be very impressed if anyone did that, especially in 81, where really the sky's the limit for these drivers. 82, there's kind of a threshold where if you're kind of too quick at the end of the season, you get bumped up to 81. Whereas 81, there's kind of no limit on how fast the drivers can be. So I don't know what to expect in Q3 in terms of lap times. Because, well, anyone can do anything, to be honest. Felix does improve and does a 17.4, making it 4 in the 16s and 5 in the 17s. Where will Zidane come in this group? It's a 16.9, and it's quicker than Carito. That's a nice little lap time there from Zidane. What about Smaller? He's starting a brand new lap, as is Everyday GMR ahead of him on track. That's weird AF, I know. It's very weird, exotic, but, you know, it is what it is. It does the same for me, mate. It says I load in and out of the time limit and kicks me out. Well, when I say I'm glad it's not happening to me, like just happening to me, that sounds horrible, but at least it's not a me problem, if you get it. It's a game problem. We take those 1-2s for Williams. Smaller Smiley then has impressed in recent weeks. Finally broke his duck of points in 81 this season. And his first points of the season came last week in Singapore, finishing 4th. And unfortunately, that is a spin at the final corner. That's not only going to ruin that lap he's on, but the next one as well. So I expect to see Smaller Smiley into the pits for a new set of tyres, perhaps. Both McLarens out there pretty late on track. Exotic has this one invalidated, and Deflated Wheat has not engaged ERS for this one. Go then with Josh, who is only 5 points off the top of the championship. Follow that link in chat for up-to-date standings after round 10 last week, Singapore, where Josh took the race win by a handsome 20 seconds, I think, at least. Deflated was leading the whole race, but then the rain started to fall. Everyone boxed for inters. It did get to the point where it was ready for full wet tyres. Josh put on the full wets and got the advantage. Deflated took the gamble, and that's a very bit wide by Exotic. And the gamble didn't pay off for Deflated. Josh won that by quite a handsome margin in the end. Josh reducing the gap at the top of the championship to, as we say, 5 points. If Josh were to win tonight, he would rise to to the championship lead with only, gosh, quick maths, 7 races to go. Deflated's banger of 24-1 was set without ERS, so this one will be plowed away quicker, 6.2 seconds up. I can't do a Hungarian accent, so you have to make do with my awful cowboy accent there. Round the final for Deflated, and this looks pretty good. It's a 15.9 and it's top, and that will be safe without any shadow of a doubt for Q2. The time to beat for the bottom 5 is TD 17.3. We could get to a point where you need a 16 really to get through. Josh, this first sector is pretty much identical to his personal best last lap. However, this middle and last sector are definitely going to be quicker. So this is so far so good for Josh through the opening. Nice and steady, very smooth for Josh. It's also very quick. 19 seconds, 20 seconds up. That's a 25 at the moment, so still needs a good 9 seconds improvement in this final sector. Fury has ducked out of Q2, thinks that lap time is quick enough on a 16.1. And here comes Josh. It's a 16.0, and that pretty much should see him through to Q3. We have a slow Alpine on track. That'll be TD, who has just popped in there with a 4/10 improvement to a 16.9. Puts himself up in the top 8 now. Time to beat now is Zidane's 16.975. Felix is letting Josh through, or Carito through, should I say. So we will check in with how Carito gets on. Teammate currently up there in the top 3. Carito almost second down on his teammate. I'm sure they're a lot closer together than that at the moment. Attempts to the good, but that is too wide or too much cutting the corner for Carito, and this one won't count. Carito putting himself under a little bit of pressure for his final run now. Still enough time to get another lap time on the board, but no opportunity now for Carito to pit and come out again. So Carito might find himself under pressure, but the fact he's only 100th behind Zidane's time actually might help him out. Means he doesn't need a 7th, 8th, 10th improvement on his lap. He only needs maybe a 10th or 2 to head through. As Frog retires up there in P5 at the moment. Really good lap time from Mr. Frog. Felix goes 7th fastest and puts Exotic Plains now as the time to beat. Zidane and Carito now routed into the drop zone. Slow Ferrari of Aya, who's back out on track. That bottom 9 drivers all out on the track right now. Shouldn't have any traffic, but he is rapidly approaching Zidane in that Aston Martin. 6/10 to the good is Exotic, so this lap time will probably see him through if he can convert it without any mistakes in the last couple of corners. And this is pretty good from Exotic. It's a 15.9 McLaren 1-2 out there. Aya comes across the line to start a new lap time. Felix comes into the pits, and Kirito is out there on a time. Across the line, it's a 16.7, puts himself back up into the top 7, ahead of Padge, who was already retired, so that's a little bit of breathing room there for Kirito. Smaller Smiley is out there. A couple of drivers going slowly. Smaller, 4 tenths up, but as we know, he needs a good 10 seconds at least. So this final sector has pressure on it. Aya going very slowly, and I think a spin at turn 5. So I think Aya possibly is out. Smaller Smiley up to 7th place, pushing Aya now into the drop zone. As across the line comes TD, but no improvement on this time. So we'll have to make do with exiting quali here. Greg comes into the pits. Aya is on a slow lap and no front wing on the car, which means Kirito is safe, and Padge has missed the drop by 4 thousandths of a second. Zidane improving to 7th fastest in the last moments as well. Unfortunately for Felix, just missing out on a spot in Q3 by fractions. Dan improving to 7th fastest in the last moments as well. Unfortunately for Felix, just missing out on a spot in Q3 by fractions. Padge setting that 16.8 very early on in the session as well, so he's been sat in the garage for about 8 or 9 minutes on that lap time, and in the end it was an inspired decision not to go out again and ruin another set of tyres, but so close there. Only 2 tenths between Padge in 10th and Everyday in 14th. Between, I would say, Asthma Frog in 6th, 7 tenths off, and Everyday, who is 4 tenths slower. So 4 tenths between 6th and 14th. Not the end of the world. Is a track difficult to overtake on, so those heading out of quali now might find themselves with a lot to do during the race, but anything's possible, as previous races have shown us. So Felix exiting in 11th, Aya in P12, TD in P13, Everyday in 14th, and Greg in 15th place for the race. So Q3, let's get a poll in there. You can predict who you think is going to get pole position. We've got Killian Deflated Exotic on the poll, or you can vote for someone else. If you vote for someone else, let us know who in the chat. Deflated then, and Padge out first for their Q3 runs. Bit of a slight wiggle out of 5. Taking a lot of curve through 6 and 7. taking that inside curb at the chicane actually does lose you pretty much a similar amount of time than actually running wide. So, just depends on how much you cut that middle chicane. But it might be a small unforced error there from Deflated. We'll have to see what his time says. If he sets the best time we've seen, I clearly know nothing. Padge, back into the pits. And, well, I'm eating my words now. It's a 15.7. Chat, roast me. Go on, I'm ready. Clearly, I've been on this microphone for too long in my life. Seems like he judged the balance of cutting that corner and overcutting that corner perfectly. So Deflated and Exotic have been engaged in a bit of a battle in Q2 as to who can top the timing screens. Deflated has got the pole position in the pole, but will he get it out on track? Kirito does a 17.0. Killian, currently second fastest, a 10th.5 down on Deflated, and there goes Exotic, just a 10th shy of his teammate. Not too bad. So far, just trying to keep tyre temps under control is my hard part. Yes, that is a big part of this Grand Prix. Josh comes across the line and does exactly the same time as Killian, 15.903 for the pair of them. Because Killian said it first, he will start third as things stand. But still, we're waiting 5 drivers to get lap times on the board. Who knows? Someone else could do a 15.903. Tomino in the chat earlier was predicting a 15.3 for pole position. Might seem a little bit out of reach, but I'm not predicting anything. Smaller Smiley goes 5th fastest on a 16.5. Derpy Derp, hello Wiggles. How are you? Did you choose to start at the back? We were not blessed with a lap time from you in Q1. I hate everything about this track except for the start-finish straight. That's quite a lot of the track number tag. Hopefully I'll have a chance of actually beating you on Sunday then, if you don't like this track very much. Yes, yes, and yesy yes. I thought so. Zidane across the line, that's a 17.4, currently 7th fastest. Padge out there for his second run, Asthma Frog and Fury out on track as well. Yet to see any footage from Fury through qualifying, so we'll stay on board with him through this lap time. We are last and second, Mr. Wiggles. Two AlphaTauris at the back. Maybe a new prediction is how far they can get to in the race. Here comes Fury. This looks quick, but it's not quick enough to be in the top 5. It's a 16.5. As Asthma Frog does a 16.7 and puts himself 7th fastest. Here comes Padge. All times on the board now. Padge does a 16.9, so a couple of tenths slower than his Q2 attempt. Zidane coming back into the pits. I assume no one out there trying to improve on limited ERS. His second run, we do know he can go quicker than a 17.0 because, well, you needed a high 16 to get through to Q2, so there is some improvement in this for Kirito. We'll be driving through the Turn 1 mess without a screen of damage. I wish you the best of luck. Massive dive Turn 1. Mate, love to see a massive dive Turn 1. If you're promising me you're doing a dive Turn 1, I'm staying on board with your car. Why are you calling me by my real name, Wiggles? Carito ploughing through this lap. Very quick lap time here at Hungary, so blink and you miss it. 4/10 to the good through the second sector. Good enough for a 0.6 as things stand, which will put him up into 7th. Another 10th or two, and it will definitely cement his place in the top 5. But at the moment, seems a bit unlikely for a 15 lap time. 16.5, so does go 5th fastest. Deflated is back out on track earlier than Killian, Josh and Exotic. And I can't remember the last time we had a 4-way fight for pole. Asma, Padge, Zidane all out on track. Fury just getting back out there as well to enter the fray. Exotic out of the pits too as we speak. And also Killian just awaiting Josh and Smiley. Smiley on the way out again as we speak, and Josh will be heading out of the pits, I imagine, in the next 20 seconds. No, he's doing it now. So Deflated will kick us off for the final round of qualifying laps tonight. But he hasn't engaged ERS. I think he is warming up his tyres with a second lap. So that's an interesting strat. We've seen we do that tonight once before. Miami was fun, however I do want that title, so I can't afford bad races. Well, it's a bad race if I beat you, is it? That's harsh, Novatek. I'm very offended. So, Asma Frog looking to hop up the leaderboard. Oh, big slide. Don't know if that was lag or whether my screen is showing something that actually didn't happen, but that is a huge slide. Still 3/10 to the good, though. This is good enough for 5th place. And a 16.4 perhaps is on the cards. Carito, after that earlier improvement on his second run, has decided to retire in the pits. As checker flag is about to fall, it's a 16.2 for Asma Frog. He is hopping around with joy right now as Zidane comes through to start a new lap. What can Padge do? Checker flag falls and Padge improves by a 10th, but still stays in 9th. Fury has invalidated his lap time, so we'll have to make do for 8th at best. And here comes Killian now through the middle sector split. He's 2/10 to the good, and this is good enough for provisional pole. Just one corner to go. Killian could be on for another pole position this season. Cross the line, it's a 15.6 and it's provisional pole, but here comes Exotic. He goes provisional pole by a couple of hundredths of a second. What can Smaller Smiley manage? Can he beat his teammate who's up there in 5th place? No, he can't. He's a couple of tenths off his teammate. And there comes Josh. Pole position. And here comes Wee. Pole position. Zidane across the line to finish in 9th place, but what in the world? Struggling to talk at the moment. Killian went fastest, Exotic beat him, Josh beat him, and then Wee tops it off with a 2/10 improvement to take yet another pole position. 4 pole positions back to back for Deflated. This is a quali masterclass. It's 5th pole position in AT1. So we takes his 5th pole position of the season, 4th in a row. Josh splits the McLarens. Good job there, but I'm sure he'll be disappointed with not getting the pole position in the end. He'll start P2. Exotic and Killian on a very quick row 2. And then we have Asthma Frog, Smaller Smiley, Carito, Fury, Zidane, and Padge rounding out the top 10 in what really was a very dramatic qualifying session. But while we wait for the drivers to stretch their legs or use the restroom, let's tell you more about one of the drivers in our league. FRL even Carito. He is featured driver tonight. If you're new around here, featured driver is a thing we do on this channel for us to get to know the person behind the gamer tag. Carito then is 23 years of age from Puerto Rico. His occupation is throwing newspapers. That's what he's put on the form. That sounds like a really fun job, to be fair. And he says he doesn't really have any hobbies or interests. He's racing on the controller, and his favourite driver is Charles Leclerc. His favourite tracks on the calendar, or on this game, are Austria, Abu Dhabi, Brazil, Portugal, and China. We've already raced at 3 of those tracks, only Portugal coming up in the second half of this season. As for his racing strengths, he says race pace is his strength, and his season 4 goals, anywhere in the points, will make him happy. Doesn't consider anyone to be a rival, which some people do have one, some people don't have one, that's all good. His driver stats then, Carito has raced 10 races in IIRL. He has 1 race win and 2 podiums to his name. 9 out of 10 races have been in the points, and exactly 100 total points scored, plus whatever he scored at Singapore, which was 1 point. So Carito still pretty new to our league, but certainly has fit in to the crowd very well indeed. Surprised if any one of those 4 were leading into turn 1. And now is the time. Hungarian Grand Prix is underway, and it's a bit of a wheel spin for Deflated Wee, but overall it's a pretty good start as they all head down, jockeying for position 3 or 4 wide in the midfield. And Carito once again having really good starts alongside Killian, and possibly overtaking him down the inside into turn 2 as Exotic has made his way past Josh. Meanwhile, Deflated Wee, he is taking advantage from all this fighting in the midfield. What's happened to Aya? He's fallen back a little bit through. Oh, and TD. What's happened to TD? Oh, and there's contact. Alfie and TD have had a bit of a ding-dong through turn 4, it would seem. Maybe there was some contact. Maybe they were just spinning in unison. But certainly, Alfie has no front wing. Oh, is that Ferrari of Top Gun just struggling slightly. Let's have a look at the tyres they're using. So, top 5, all on hard tyres. Then we've got Fury, Smaller, and Smithy on the mediums, as Mr. Wiggles getting past Greg. Deflated Wee, though, on the charge. 1 second gap already to his teammate. As in the foreground, we've got Fury and Carito swapping places. Zidane also getting past Smaller. Will Smaller go for the move in turn 2? No, but he's sticking it around the inside, hoping that there's space for him. Bit of a switchback, but this move, oh, I have to say, is not the one. I'd say if you're going to make a move into turn 4, you're going to have to do it on the inside. Otherwise, you will be very disappointed. So Fury using those mediums to get back past Carito after Carito's great start, making it way up to 4th in the opening lap, with those hard tyres just causing him a bit of pain on lap 2. Ironically, there's more gaps at the front of the pack than there are at the back, in terms of how many people are not in DRS range. As we start lap 3, Deflated Wee once again pulls out a few tenths of a second, but Fury is really getting closer to this battle for 3rd. DRS won't be enabled out of turn 1 because the DRS detection is at the end of the lap. More moves down the field. Longson on the soft tyres has got past Top Gun, and Mr. Wiggles has made his way past Top Gun as well. And it's a very close battle here for 12th place. Mr. Wiggles, really good turn 5, but not quite alongside chicane. See where we're up to. So when we left it, Deflated Wee was 1.4 up on Exotic. Exotic has now closed that gap to 0.6. Josh is not within DRS range of Exotic, but that's how we left them. Killian and Furia as we left them as well. Carito now in a battle with Zidane over 6th place. Smaller Smiley running well in 8th place at the moment. And Mr. Wiggles is on a charge right now. Started 19th, now P9. Making his way past Asma, Padge and Felix since the last time we were live on the track. And Longson as well, who is attempting to block off Top Gun. Oh well, make your mind up at home whose fault that was, but it looked like a late dive bomb from Top Gun and a late defense from Longson. But in the end, Top Gun does get past into 13th every day. Again, with these two newbies, Alfie at the back of the pack and Everyday GMR, hard to know exactly where they fit in, whether it's the back end of the field, the midfield, or whether they're up there for points, as we see a Mercedes spinning of Smaller Smiley from 8th place. That releases Mr. Wiggles now up into the top 8. I'm excited to see what Everyday's going to do. He's kind of fit into that gap between Greg and Top Gun. He's with Felix, who has a podium this season, and Padge, who is no slouch as well, is only just ahead of this group. So I'm impressed so far by Everyday. See how he or she gets on over the course of the next 28 laps. Longson will need to make a pit stop in the next couple of laps or so. Those soft tyres won't last forever. And there we go down the inside of Greg. But Greg with a switchback manoeuvre, beautifully executed, as off the track we have Aya. No. Who is that off the track? I think that's Alfie just getting out of the way as he is lapped. And that Longson made a nice move into turn 2 and defends 14th place. Evening TJ, how you doing, mate? Hope you're well. Aya on the back of this group, as well as TD, who has a time penalty in the race. Padge, Everyday and Alfie also with time penalties in the early running. Smaller has boxed for hard tyres this lap, where he will probably go to the end of the race. Same story for Alfie. I've been watching since quali, but was in Nando's. Hope you're all well, mate. I'm very jealous. I've been feeling ill for a week and a half, and today's the one day where I'm starting to feel better, and now you're saying about Nando's. You owe me a Nando's now, TJ. That's how it works. So while the two McLarens are fighting for position, Josh and Killian are fighting for position, and if we're being honest here, Exotic is doing deflated up on to Josh into turn number 1. Fury doing a good job at staying in touch. He'll need to make an earlier pit stop, which means he'll get kind of a mini undercut on the top 4. Actually might get him the net lead of the race. As a big battle for P6 breaking out. A huge gap forming between the top 5 and this battle for 6th. Carito defending on the hard compounds. Mr. Wiggles and Zidane behind on the medium compounds. Mr. Wiggles getting extremely close to the back of Carito, our feature driver in the Red Bull. As Longson gets a time penalty. 9 laps on those soft tyres is pretty impressive there from Longson. But it's getting to the point now where he will need to pit. There's the time penalties in case you are wondering. We'll check back in, see how people are doing with the time penalties later on in the race. Mr. Wiggles, can he make the move on Carito? Nope, he decides better of it into turn 1. Not quite close enough, or maybe just waiting to make that move into turn 2. But not close enough. Ooh, a little bit on the inside curb there from Wiggles. Nice battle for 10th at the moment. Padge has a time penalty, but trying to get Top Gun and Felix out of DRS range behind him. As Asma Frog is running pretty well up there in P9 at the moment. Qualified really well. And there goes Mr. Wiggles, having a bit of a sighter. Carito gives him the space. Mr. Wiggles allows him the space as well. Bit of a slide. And Zidane not quite close enough to take advantage into the final corner, but Mr. Wiggles will find himself under big pressure now. Red light flashing at the back of the car. That means Mr. Wiggles is down to 10% or less ERS management. The longer that these three fight, the more opportunity Asma Frog has to try and make this a four-way battle. Currently 1.7. Asma Frog is bringing that gap down to this battle for 6th, but Mr. Wiggles is putting Carito under a lot of pressure here. Carito is defending really, really well in this stage of the race. Gap starting to form out front. Deflated Wee has his teammate out of DRS range. 1.1 is the gap. Josh, meanwhile, though, has started to gain a little bit on Deflated, on Exotic, so maybe Exotic has just had a bit of a poor lap time. That last lap time around. Killian still 4 tenths behind Josh. Get the feeling Killian is playing the long game as Mr. Wiggles goes into the pits. Oh, and makes a bit of a mistake. Going for an undercut, so Mr. Wiggles will be looking to put on a brand new set of tyres, get better lap times with those new tyres by the time that Carito and Zidane pit. Mr. Wiggles will be far enough ahead on track that he gets that place. So Mr. Wiggles hoping for a net 6th place, as Alfie gets a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pits, where he retires. Unfortunately, Everyday GMR has also retired, so both debutants here tonight calling it an early bath. Fury has dropped out of DRS range of Josh and Killian. However, he's only a few seconds, maybe 5 seconds max off of the lead. You can see all top 5 leaders there in one picture, so it's not the end of the world for Fury. He pits now, which means that he will get, in effect, a mini undercut on the top 4, and it is up to the top 4 to try and stay ahead of Fury, whether Fury now has a bit between his teeth. And there you see the move eventually from Killian on Josh. Killian now up into 3rd. Still nothing to separate two McLarens. And still this battle rages. Carito was defending from Zidane in the opening few laps. Mr. Wiggles has forced himself into that fight as well. Since Wiggles pitted, Zidane has picked up where he left off. Doing well on those older medium tyres to stay with Carito, whose hard tyres now will be in better condition than Zidane's. Good battle behind though for 7th. Asthma Frog. Padge, oh, and Padge spins. Very easily done. Not the first driver to have a spin there. And certainly not the last. I'm expecting a few more on Sunday night as well. But Padge will need to make sure that those tyres don't get too warm and spin again. Still not the right time to pit, as Deflated has made quite a huge error. Towards the end of lap 14, he's let Exotic now right on the rear wing. And here we see the McLaren civil war as Mr. Wiggles sets a new fastest lap of the race. Really pushing to try and get that net 5th place, 6th place. And with the top 2 now fighting, Killian and Josh are brought right back into the fight. So 2 seconds cover these top 4 drivers. And looks incredibly like, unless someone makes a mistake from these top 4, unfortunately the person at the back of the train is going to miss out on a podium, which doesn't seem to be very fair, but sometimes that's how it rolls. Deflated Wheat puts in a mega lap there to get Exotic off his back. It seems like Deflated has a couple of extra tenths of pace when he needs it. For instance, when he's under pressure from his teammate behind, he can put the burners on and start to build a little bit of a gap again. As Mr. Wiggles sets back-to-back fastest laps, he is really trying to chase down Fury for what could be 5th place here. He's got 6 seconds ahead of him to do it. Everyone now on the hard compound tyres. The top 9 plus Aya and Padge at the back of the field will need to pit for most likely medium compounds, as Deflated Wee makes another mistake, goes wide, and this time it costs him the lead. But here comes Deflated fighting back round the outside. Killian here is super close. These two McLarens need to be careful that they don't fight each other out of the top 2 positions. And this is now a really intense fight for the win. for the lead. Killian sitting back. More fighting from the McLarens. Exotic on the right, Deflated on the left, now behind, now for the inside. Bit of lag on my screen, bit of contact. Deflated corrects the car. How on earth did Deflated we not spin that car around then? Josh is just lying in wait here. You might think, well, he needs to get a move on if he wants to get on the podium, but the way these top two are driving, these two McLarens, they're pushing each other to their limit, to the extent that one more time could cost them the podium, and Josh is instantly then in. Josh, I'm sure, will be hoping for Deflated to make a mistake. Josh trails Deflated at the top of the standings by 5 points. So as it stands, Deflated would get 18 points, Josh would get 12. That gap would extend to 11 out front. It's not the end of the season so far by any stretch of the imagination for Josh if he were to finish behind Deflated here this evening. But as we start the second half of this Grand Prix, Josh will not want to give Deflated any more points that he can afford. And in to the picture now comes a possible undercut for one of these top four. By pitting a lap earlier, they can make the most of the new compound tyres, the fresh grip available to them, and potentially gain themselves a position. For Deflated, that could be the race lead again. For Josh, it could be a spot on the podium. For Killian, if the undercut is powerful here, and he is going for it, could possibly get him the race lead. And we'll have to see where Killian comes out of the pits. Will he come out behind another car who's going to slow him down? Of course, don't forget, it's hard to overtake here at Hungary. Or will he come out in free space? And it's a slow stop on our screen, but it is absolutely fine. So Killian comes out of the pits ahead of Fury. That mini undercut from Fury has put him right back in the hunt for a possible podium here. Felix looks to be in AI. Can't confirm. So Fury boxed behind Killian when he was in 5th place 5 or 6 laps ago on lap 13. Those leaders are staying out. Exotic though pits. Deflated obviously not pitting at the same time because he will get held up behind his teammate and lose about 5 or 6 seconds at least. So Exotic Planes has the optimum strategy, and the question is, has Killian got this undercut on Exotic? There is Exotic out of the pits, and here comes Killian. He's got nice toasty tyres, bit of a love tap in turn 1, and there goes the ERS on for Killian. A move around the outside of 2 is not a bad idea at all, but there's more contact as Exotic looks to get those tyres up to temperature. They're still side by side, and in the end, the outside line for Exotic just gave him the breathing room he needed. I expect to see Deflated and Josh in this lap. Of course, You might think, well, why are they doing the undercut and staying, the overcut and staying out? Well, this is exactly why. The more that Exotic and Killian fight, they'll actually lose time. Deflated Wheat pits this lap. Josh stays out for another run. Your Xbox has basically just decided not to connect to the Wi-Fi. That is a shame. What lap did you lag out on, Felix? Do you remember? And here comes the civil war for the two McLarens. Unfortunately for Deflated, it just wasn't quite good enough. And in the end, Deflated has lost a place to Killian. A 2-lap undercut for the Alpine driver has. This then calls into question Josh's decision to stay out. Gap still about 16 seconds here. Josh isn't really losing time to Exotic, but Deflated has certainly lost a chunk of time to Killian whilst he gets his tyres up to temperature, and Josh stays out again. Is there a strategy, i.e. hard to soft tyres, that is quicker that I do not know about? I am all ears, Josh. If you know something I don't, please teach me. At the moment, Killian is looking to cook. And next up on the menu is Exotic. That 14 still isn't back on, that's a shame. If you can't get back in, you may lose your result, because it's not fair for the AI to drive around getting you points the whole race. Hope you understand, mate. Oh, he's joined back, lovely. I imagine Felix will be into the pits immediately. 21 laps on those hard compound. 17 runners, no real issues in terms of crashing people out or anything like that. There's been a bit of contact here and there. There's drivers going side by side. Josh does pit, and he will most likely come out behind Fury here. Ooh, Felix has lagged out again. That's not good news. Josh exits the pits, as you can see, and here comes Fury. Fury's hard tyres are nice and warm. Josh will have half a lap or so to get those mediums up to temperature. There you can see it, Josh has lost about 4 seconds by staying out 4 laps longer than Killian. Oh, and that certainly looked very weird on our screen. These top 3 picking up where they left off. Deflated Wee with a couple of laps. Fresher tyres to Killian has managed to get back within DRS range. And at the moment, I imagine Deflated Wee will just be trying to get some ERS in his life. Was running low on ERS energy in the first stint. Obviously, those pit stops will give you an extra maybe 20 or 30%, which you obviously have to utilise really well at this track. It's possible to save ERS per lap, but it's actually very difficult to save it per lap, so you need to use your ERS very wisely. No point spending 30-40% trying to make one overtake when in reality the other driver can just use DRS and get back past you. Josh's strategy here, could say, very questionable. Might have cost himself a realistic shot at a podium here. These top three need to ensure they don't get any time penalties here while they're battling away, possibly just biding their time. Let's watch the battle between Top Gun and Carito. Top Gun was one of the earlier hitters from the hard compound to the medium. Carito has just made his pit stop about 4 or 5 laps ago. Felix losing a place to Zidane whilst Felix is in AI. Aya in 11th gets the time penalty. Going to concede keeping to join. That is a shame, Felix. Always a pleasure to have you racing with us, but sometimes the game is the game and, you know, screws you over. I've been there last season in AT1 Hungary. I actually couldn't race. I got kicked out of Q1 multiple times. Couldn't set a lap time even. So I know the feelings, Felix. That is unlucky. I hope to see you next week. Yeah, it's just the way it is, Baker. It is what it is, but hopefully the next game has a lot of these bugs and issues fixed the next time we start Season 5. Asma Frog having a nice little battle with Aya for 11th. Aya is yet to pit on those hard compounds, so maybe staying out for a set of those softs, and if a safety car comes out, actually might be a decent call from Aya to stay out. You can see how much time Asma gains, not even using that much ERS and getting past Aya into the top 11. Hopefully I'll fix them, but I highly doubt it. I highly doubt it as well, but maybe for the next game, you know, anything's possible for the next game, right? TD in the background, closing in potentially on Asma Frog. Has a 3-second time penalty to his name, so might struggle to get into the points here. Even if Felix is demoted, TD will still be 11th. Those top three all separated by just less than a second still. Josh is gaining per lap by 3 or 4 tenths, so if he carries on that way, he will actually get some DRS for the end of the race. I'm glad the stream still works though, mate. I've been touching wood the whole time. The amount the game's kicked me out today. Thank you, appreciate that, mate. Do my best. TD here setting personal best through the middle sector. Those 12-lap-old hard tyres aren't stopping him from getting a good rhythm and groove here into this Grand Prix. Heading deep into the race now with only 8 laps remaining, plus the one that the leaders are on. We'll check back in with the leaders shortly. The battle for 5th is intensifying. Fury and Wiggles, as we predicted, are now battling. Next, Carrot has left. He is not in our league. Our feature driver, Carito, in a battle at the moment with Top Gun. Carito has 3-lap fresher tyres, but just falling out of overtaking range. Top Gun having a decent recovery race, actually, after dropping out of qualifying in Q2. Seem to have stabilised for you. I think what happens is the game, in the first session I'm a part of, I lag out constantly. So for instance, for me tonight it'd be Q1. I constantly lag out, And as soon as Q2 hits, where it's like a new session, I think it kind of hits like a reset. So for the race, I've kind of hit 3 sessions already. So there's enough kind of resets in place to actually help me out. I think that's what's happening. Or was late on the brakes from Asm Frog. Felix AI still hasn't made a pit stop and is fighting back. Oh, as Top Gun gets a penalty. That could cost him P7 to Carito. As Aya, on the soft tyres, has set a new fastest lap of the Grand Prix, 1 minute 17.7. Let's check back in then with the leaders. No, it's not letting me. As into turn 1, once again, only 8 or 9 tenths separating the top 3. Race win is on the cards for any of these drivers. But one mistake, one time penalty will cost them the race win here. Is your AI gonna pit? What's he doing? I hope he pits, though. I don't understand the strategy, Felix, I'm not gonna lie. And there in the background, Josh, once again, is closing slowly but surely. Does Josh have enough laps to gain? Oh, what? Exotic's wide! Huge mistake. And it's dropped him to the back of that trio. Killian now leads the race. As we said, one mistake could cost these top 3 a race win here, as Wiggles gets past Fury for 5th place. I don't imagine there'll be any scope for Wiggles to get into the top 4 here. But Josh has gained another half a second on lap 29. He is really on the charge. As no gain in the first sector. Oh, what's happened to Exotic? He's red again. I do. What word do you want as the command, Johnny? Exclamation mark, what do you want? Josh here gaining. Not homing in as perhaps we thought he would. 1.4 behind Exotic, who is fighting, clawing, scratching to stay within DRS range of these top 2. Still, Killian and Deflated fight for the win. These top 4 all started in the top 4, but they're not going to finish in exactly the same position they qualified, apart from Josh at the moment. You didn't say curse. I know you meant curse. I know you. Leaders are ending lap 32 and starting lap 33. 3 laps remaining as they cross the line. Josh has got the gap down now to 1.2 seconds. He is gaining per lap, but I'm not sure there's enough laps in the race for him to make full effect of that DRS if he gets in the range. That was a weird sentence. I hope it made sense. Carito's pace has just not been quite as quick as Top Gun. Top Gun's penalty may not affect his 7th place at the moment. Top Gun has really been gaining on Fury and Wiggles, who still fight for 5th place. He's finally pitting. Well, Felix has successfully completed the weirdest strategy I've ever seen. This is AI, not him. Was my AI even been eaten? He did up to 32 laps on hards. Oh, and Fury's off! And he's out! And will that be a virtual safety car? There's no full safety car left with only a few laps remaining. Oh, and that wheel is having a horrible time. Unfortunately, a 6th place finish for Fury is now off the cards. Red light flashing for Killian. Can't quite see if Deflated's red light is flashing. Potentially here. Deflated has the ERS to attack. Yeah, it's too late. Exactly what I thought. If this was real life, well, there'd probably be a red flag, I guess, based on what we saw last weekend. Josh is in DRS range of exotic, but there's only 1 lap to go after this one as TD boxes for softs. So does Longson. Excuse me. Kirito may not get Top Gun, but he should have a spot in P7. Decent points for the Red Bull team. Josh is currently up in P4 with the McLaren boys bossing it at the moment. And this could be the last proper overtake opportunity of the evening as they enter the final lap. Here comes Deflated. The DRS is open. The ERS is on. And he's alongside. This could be a move. 30 laps in the making. Killian defends superbly well, but here comes Deflated. Not close enough into 2. There are back markers. I believe that is Longson. Longson could play a huge part in this Grand Prix. A slight mistake from Deflated into turn 5, and Exotic now is the closest driver within striking distance. These top 4 were separated by only a tenth and a bit in quali. They were separated by at max 3 seconds in the first stint. They're going to finish 2 seconds apart at the end of the race. Killian here could actually get DRS out of the final corner. Which will cement the win, but for Killian, who started 3rd on the grid, it's been an absolutely fantastic race from him, and he takes the win. Josh misses out on a podium by 2/10. Maybe that tyre strategy just cost him a few seconds too much at the end. Mr. Wiggles from 19th on the grid up to P5. That is phenomenal driving from Mr. Wiggles. Kirito DNFs from the race and actually won't score points. That was a bit of a silly manoeuvre there. Zidane will get 7th, and Asthma Frog will battle Greg to the line, but both will be in the points. Smaller Smiley, 28 lap old hard tyres, battling Aya. Oh, he spins out of the final corner. More drama. Felix's AI will come home to finish as Aya crosses the line. And some donuts from Padge in the Haas. Longson and TD, it's just not been their races. Longson takes the fastest lap, TD crashes out before the finishing line. Kirito effed up, didn't cross the line when hitting the wall. Exactly right, and he will not get points for that. We saw that in Australia, I think at the beginning of last season with Tamino. What is he cooking? 11th. AI goated. Well, the strangest strategy in the world for Felix's AI actually turned into 11th place. And you qualied 11th as well, so that's kind of ironic in the same way. But for Killian, it was a mistake-free race. Started 4th on the grid, excuse me, not 3rd, as I incorrectly said. Deflated could have won, had the position a couple of times, but a couple 2 mistakes. Just tiny mistakes which cost him time, maybe cost him the race win here today, but still ends up on the podium and outscores Josh by 6 points. The gap at the top now, Deflated leads Josh by 11 points going into the final 7 rounds. It's not over yet, it really isn't. Mr. Wiggles and Top Gun, great drives from the back of the field up into the points. Zidane, Asma, Greg, again being consistent as always, and Smaller Smiley, after a really difficult race, get some points for their respective constructors. Felix, Aya, Longson, Carito, TD, Hadge and Fury 3 laps down, all will be classified in the race. And Everyday GMR and Alfie, unfortunately the stars didn't align for them tonight in Hungary. Hopefully next week we can see what they're made of. Oh my word, chat. That ended out to be a very interesting Grand Prix. There was fights all up and down the field. It wasn't the most dramatic, but certainly at the end, Killian proved that the mistake-free race that he made was good enough for the race win. But driver of the day is going to be an interesting one. It has to go to 2 people. It has to go to the race winner, Killian, for not making any mistakes and being in a fight for the win for pretty much all of the race. But it also has to go to Mr. Wiggles, 19th to 5th. Certainly very impressive stuff. Got to be your AI, mate. AI is special mention. 28 laps on the hards, Felix. No point in trying when you get hit every race. That is a shame, TD. Very sad to hear that. Hopefully next week can be the one for you. Next week, round number 12 of the season, we will be in Mexico. Possibly the worst track ever made, but that's my own personal opinions. 32 laps, built different. Love that. So next week we will be in Mexico for an IRL siesta. Hopefully you can join us then. If you fancy another unpredictable race, well, you don't have to wait till next week. You can join us on Tuesday, or on Sunday even. Gosh, get my days right. You can join us on Sunday for 82 Grand Prix.